So I'm especially excited today. We're inviting back 3 former students, 2 of whom are UMass alumni, to present tonight. It's a little bit of a longer session. It's going to go till 8:30. Just before I introduce them, I want to remind people that there are still 3 more talks. Yeah, 3 more in this series. I'll put a link to the series in the chat, as well as a link to the playlist if you're interested in checking out any of the previous talks, which were also terrific. So I don't even know where to begin, but these are 3 of the oldest and the dearest students from the past and from the deep past. And we're going to start off with Michelle Painter, who's going to talk about her work as community engagement coordinator. Do I have that right, Michelle?
Yes.
With the Florida Orchestra, and she will speak for a little under 45 minutes and maybe take some questions at the end of that period. And then at about 7:45, Coco and Hannah will talk about the work they did at the Bronx Global Learning Institute for Girls. Okay, Michelle, it's all yours.
Thank you, Liz. I'm also very, very excited to be here. So my name is Michelle Painter. I am the Community Engagement Coordinator for the Florida Orchestra. And my position within the organization is very specific. I basically facilitate our program and our partnership with Prodigy Cultural Arts, which I'll talk a little bit about here in a second. And, I help facilitate our free violin classes. And that's what we're here to talk about. So let me, so let's start here. Let's start with the PowerPoint. So the Florida Orchestra and Prodigy Cultural Arts. Now, are the faces in the way of is that all right? Does that look okay?
Yep, that's good.
Okay, so I just wanted to start a little bit just to talk about the background of the Florida Orchestra and Prodigy Cultural Arts before we sort of dive into it. So the mission of the Florida Orchestra is to enrich the life of the Tampa Bay area as it inspires, entertains, and educates a wide and diverse audience with live music. My particular favorite line in this is ensuring that future generations will continue to enjoy this legacy that so magnificently celebrates the human spirit. That is my ultimate favorite line in our mission statement. That's what music is all about. Whether you're talking about performing, whether you're talking about educating, or you're talking about arts admin, it's all about the humanity in all of us, right? So the orchestra began in the 1930s. And it was just a bunch of regional orchestras around the area. And in 1984, all of these orchestras came together and they were filed under the Florida Orchestra. So we serve the greater Tampa Bay area, which includes the city of Tampa, the city of St. Petersburg, and the city of Clearwater. It's recognized as Tampa Bay's leading performing arts institution, as well as the largest professional symphony orchestra in Florida. So my department, community engagement, and I believe we have our community engagement director here, Darren Bauer, who is magnificent, shout out. We had our full department in fall of 2016. So what does community engagement mean? What do we do? Well, we provide youth concerts for the public and for schools. We provide open rehearsals. We provide free and reduced tickets to several of our concerts. We have several community-based events like our Sing Out Tampa Bay. We also have the Teaching Artist program within community engagement, where we have highly qualified instructors and professional musicians who go to public schools and help build curriculum and best practices within the orchestra classroom in the public school system. We offer free concerts in the park, and of course, the Prodigy Partnership. A big part of what we do is we want to create equitable access to classical music, live symphonic music, and music instruction. That's a really big piece of what we're trying to do. Just a little map, it might be blurry, just to give you an idea. So we serve the areas here, Pinellas County and Hillsborough County here in blue. So what is Prodigy Cultural Arts. Prodigy Cultural Arts is a nonprofit organization, a preventative organization that has been around for about 20 years. It falls under a larger corporation called the University Area Community Development Corporation, or UACDC for short. And so Prodigy Cultural Arts is a research-based prevention and diversion program for traditionally underserved communities. So Prodigy utilizes visual and performing arts as a way to help young people develop core life skills. And this is what really separates them or sets them apart and makes them unique. Our curriculum, even in our violin class, is largely focused on communication, leadership, critical thinking skills, problem solving, anger or emotional management, as well as goal setting and meeting those goals. So as a result of this partnership, for the first time in its very long history, TFO is able to offer group violin classes to youth across Hillsborough County for free. When we say for free, that means their violins are free. Their rosin, their strings, their books, everything from their instrument to the rubber bands they use to put on their sponges, free. All right, so this program and this partnership was initiated and began in summer of 2018. And so a part of how the partnership functions is we set up shop basically in a site, and all of our sites are community centers or recreational centers. So they're after school enrichment programs. You know, personally, I had no idea what the function of a community center was, if I'm being completely honest. And through this program, I have really come to learn that many of these parks and rec centers are huge, huge pillars in the communities that they serve. You know, these centers offer so much enrichment to their communities at a very affordable or low cost. And the relationships that these centers have with their communities, it's just incredible. It's inspiring. It's truly like a family. Our program is grant funded through the UACDC as well as Hillsborough County and some private sponsors. We're a very young program. We're going into year 3, I believe. So our model before we went fully virtual as a result of the pandemic, our programming takes place at community centers after school. We have exactly 3 hours of instruction weekly. So that's 2 classes a week for an hour and a half. They do get a break. I promise they don't play the entire time. They get dance breaks and whatnot. Students meet in group class, and in group class, this is where we set goals. And this is where we go to town on our life skills infused curriculum. We make it a point to have those teachable life skill moments or activities at the beginning of each class and at the end of each class. And throughout the class, you know, by virtue and nature of learning a musical instrument, there are constantly teachable life skill moments. And one of my favorites that one of our wonderful instructors, something that she is constantly utilizing in her classroom is and I consider this a life skill: stop, breathe, think, right? Simple, but how many times have we been in situations where we as adults, we need to say, stop, breathe, think, you know? So this is real life, yeah? Our program primarily consists of 3rd and 6th graders. And the idea is so that many of these kids can be introduced to the instrument, and they can have access to, you know, high quality instruction and high quality materials, and then they can feed into the middle school programs. In the state of Florida, we don't have a lot of elementary string programs. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Oftentimes, students are introduced to string instruments in the 6th grade wheel, you know, so they float around from orchestra to art to, you know, whatever, to see what they like. So before I move on further, I'd like to share a video that sort of talks about our program in general. So here we go.
So this is our last performance for the school year with these kids. They've worked really hard and they're amazing.
Hey, Michelle, I don't think you're sharing the video.
With Prodigy.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, we're not seeing the video.
Sharing your PowerPoint screen.
Oh, how strange. Okay, let's try this then. How's that? Thank you.
It's an interesting model because it's in a limited time frame. So we have 6 weeks basically. In that limited time frame, we have to somehow teach these kids who we sort of assume they don't have any prior experience. Let's see, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade basically play a very challenging instrument.
As much as you might feel like you're struggling, you keep moving on with your eyes, okay? And your ears.
It teaches my girls life skills to play the violin because it takes a lot of tenacity to keep going.
We really hone in on 3 basic life skills. So we have communication, problem solving, and anger management. In order to manage your anger, you must communicate. In order to communicate that, you must be able to problem solve. The nature of a violin class, for sure, or any music class, but in this case, a violin class, is it requires clear communication.
What it's been like for Deja to participate in the Prodigy Cultural Arts program, it's been amazing. I wanted to play an instrument as a child, but growing up, your family couldn't afford for you to go to lessons and have an instrument, so you just had to sit on the sidelines. And now that I have a child that is doing it, it's amazing because now I can afford to make sure that she has this enjoyment, even if it's just for a little while, that she gets that experience and that she gets to feel what it's like to be part of an orchestra or play the violin or just do some amazing things.
We play everything that comes out of the workshop. So it gets our seal of approval.
Give me a minute.
Of course, of course.
I'm sorry, I'm just...
All right, can I give you a hug?
Please. Thank you.
Of course.
It means so much to me. I'm sacrificing for her to have something that I wished I could have did as a child, played a musical instrument.
My parents did the same for me.
The impact that the Florida Orchestra and Prodigy program have had on my children has been monumental. They are more open to trying new things now because they're not as scared. They're going in front of people and they're playing this instrument that in the beginning they had never played before.
I'm really excited because I'm not going to put this under the tree. So it'll be a secret surprise. Because she's like, Mom, are we still going to get me a violin? I'm like, I'm still thinking about it. Got to fix out the budget. She's like, all right, if we can't get it, just let me know. I'm like, okay. She doesn't know I'm even here doing this.
We also take them on a field trip. We've gone on 3 so far, 3 different field trips. They went to the violin shop and they got to go in the workroom. We also took them to a rehearsal at Armature Works. That was really cool because they got to see behind the scenes. They got to see how an orchestra works.
Sometimes when you play, you want to get passionate and play and enjoy it. So Jeff is one of our most passionate, enjoyable players. That's right.
The 3rd field trip they did was we took them to a concert. We took them to a Florida Orchestra concert. And that was really cool because they got to see professionals doing something that they are also doing.
If I could take this time and rewind it back and put myself in Deja's shoes, I probably would be like a little kid out in the rain and just running with it and never letting go.
What is it?
It's a violin.
Turn it around so we can see it. Wow.
My own violin.
This partnership is really important with Florida Orchestra and Prodigy. It's because it gives kids an opportunity that they may not have had in their lives, and it's something significant.
Through this program, you're able to take someone who can tell them that it's okay and to work through their struggles with them and to come out even a stronger person on the other side.
Okay. Isn't that just the sweetest video? The violin story really gets to me. My eyes are a little watery, and I've probably seen that video like 100 times. I mean, it's just, you know, I think the video kind of speaks for itself in so many ways. You can really see the impact that this little thing of a violin class has on these kids. And I'm going to ditch the PowerPoint because I don't want to do all the back and forth again, if you don't mind. But, you know, it's something that is truly life-changing for a lot of these students. And, you know, we're not trying to find the next big violin star. We're trying to just put something in these kids' hands so that they can know what it means to make a sound, know what it means to express themselves. We want them to know what it means to be consistent with something, to really follow through with something. And these are all huge, huge things in life. The idea is to instill these core life skills that are transferable to everything that they will encounter growing up. And you really see them change in a very short amount of time. The young girl that you saw in the video, she still plays the violin, and this video was from like 2 years ago. I give her lessons, you know, and she loves it, and it's very possible that she wouldn't have discovered this without this introductory program. You know, our teachers are some of the most incredible instructors. They are all professional musicians in the area, and they're all master teachers. They're wonderful, and they're constantly adjusting our curriculum and our best practices, because as you can imagine, at each site that we have, every group of student is going to be completely different, right? And as we all know, I mean, if you've ever taught, you are in there's a constant state of, you know, flux, you know, you're constantly adjusting because we're human beings and we all function in very different ways. So another thing that you got to see in that video was the field trip aspect. So every single session, our sessions are fall, spring, and summer. Every single session, we have a field trip that we take the kids on. And this field trip has to somehow enhance their musical experience. So we took them to the violin shop, and this is a local shop, and they're incredible. They have been a partner with us for this program since the very beginning. And the kids got to go in to the workshop, and they got to like shave the wood on some of the instruments, and they got to see the connection of science and music, which they thought was incredible. I mean, we had some kids who in violin class, they're just like, but when we got to the shop and they saw how things were made, they were just like, they were stunned. They couldn't believe it, you know? So by providing these very varied types of experiences, I think, you know, we can maximize the amount of kids that we reach out to. And then the final piece of their sort of experience in our program is the showcase. That's when they get to perform for family and friends. And for some of them, this is the first performance they've ever had in their life. This is the first time they've ever been in front of people just watching them. And this is huge. This is a huge confidence builder. This is a huge moment for many of these kids to feel brave, to feel accomplished, to show the hard work that they have put in consistently for weeks, anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks. So it's really quite magnificent, I have to say. And it's interesting to watch them go through the process of having to perform. So many of them were, their eyes looked like they're about to fall out of their heads because I'm so nervous. Oh, what if I forget this? What if I forget that? And I think we can all relate to that, because at some point in our lives, in school, in your professional life, you're going to have to get up in front of people and you're going to have to make it work, honey, So that's really what, that's again, a life skill through the vehicle of music, that we're just sort of like dropping those seeds in there, and hopefully a lifelong love and appreciation for the violin, but for music in general and for the creative process in general. Something that's really cool as we've gone on, we've noticed that the kids, not only have they had huge confidence boosts, they're starting to compose their own songs. So like the second they get those instruments, I'll get videos from my teachers all the time. They're like, oh yeah, this student, they just wrote their own song. And it's like open strings sometimes with different rhythms, but it's like their song, And to be able to have that to really express themselves, I think is huge. So those are all of the things that we were able to do in person. Okay, so March rolls around and then what? We've got a pandemic. So what do we do with these kids? It's right smack in the middle of our spring session. And we're just like, oh my God, like the rest of the world. And we switched to entirely virtual classes. If any of you have ever taught a group of late elementary students who are beginners on Zoom all at one time, you probably understand the stress, or even if it's a group of adults, to be quite honest, it's a very difficult platform. But again, our instructors made the adjustments, they got extremely creative, and we were able to maintain a core group of kids during a very, very stressful and strange time. In fact, our attendance rates, we were at like 80%, which is like pretty good. For a violin class. As a result of moving to the virtual platform, we had to change our model a bit. So rather than having an hour and a half on Zoom, which can be a challenge, we have an hour class twice a week where the kids meet in groups. And then for 30 minutes a week, they have a buddy lesson, which means they are grouped by their teachers in groups of 2 or 3, according to their age and sort of their level, their learning style, and they're able to have sort of that one-on-one attention that they may need as a result of being in this virtual platform. We deliver worksheets to the kids now because we can't see them in person at the rec centers. If they break a string, well, it's time to get in the car and go change the string for them, socially distanced, of course. We take them all their worksheets, all their materials, everything and anything they need. We still deliver it out. And, those miles add up. But the kids, every single time we go and visit them, they immediately run inside the house and they grab their instrument. They're like, can I play this song that I just learned? Or can I play this song that I just wrote for you? And, that to me tells me, okay, like this is important. This is very meaningful for them at this moment, which also sort of ties into another really big piece of our program. We provide a safe space for our kiddos. That is sort of like number one up there. It sort of works hand in hand with creating an equitable space for learning. We want to make sure that the kids feel safe in every way possible. And they do, we often have parents telling us today in the virtual world, my 8-year-old will come up to me and be like, it's 5:30, it's time for Zoom. I need the computer. It's time for violin class, you know? And these kids would have never done that at the beginning of this session, but they're taking ownership of this program. So that to me is extremely, I don't know, it tells me that we're doing something right, yeah? So what I wanted to do now is I wanted to share a video with you as well about our virtual world. So let's see if I can do this correctly the first time. Okay, share screen. Can you see that?
Okay, you ready? Instruments up. Let's see if we can do it. And 1, 2. Can you make sure your bow hold is correct, Sarah? Thank you. And your wrist is straight, Maria.
We learn many skills while learning the violin. One of them, which is very important, very hard to acquire, is to be patient. When we learn our instrument, we need to breathe, we need to try again, we need to make sure we make it to the end.
Prodigy has benefited us a lot because for my daughter, she's been very much missing like the social scene.
And during these times, social distancing has been a big issue.
This gave her a huge opportunity to meet multiple times in a week.
And enjoy a different aspect of life other than just being home, watching TV or looking at a computer screen all day.
Not only are you teaching her, but she's taught herself how to put herself in a position to where she has to stick to it and that she has to be held accountable for what she's doing.
I saw you have your fingers up here. Yes, put them down there. Thank you.
I don't know what
fits your pinky.
The Prodigy Cultural Arts Program is a partnership between the Florida Orchestra and Prodigy Cultural Arts, which is a small part of the university area CDC.
We're bringing violin lessons for free for as many kids as possible.
You know, we want to put our kids in activities, you know, and all these activities cost a lot, and this definitely helps out a lot.
They break a string, well, we show up and we fix it. They lose their rosin, well, we show up and we bring them a new one. So we literally give them everything they could possibly need in order to be successful in this program.
Bye, thank you so much. See you tomorrow.
And it makes us want to push the kids to keep on doing it and keep them striving for that. I mean, it just, and they're happy to do it.
The involvement with the Florida Orchestra with this project is an amazing opportunity for the kids because
the orchestra is not only giving performances, but they're giving education.
We play some Vivaldi, we play some many different things. We also played in the orchestra.
Just last week, I had 2 or 3 professional musicians that came and gave us basically a private concert.
It's so important also to be part of this program because
the benefit of learning an instrument is just, I mean, there's no price tag on that. Some of the skills that she has learned since being in Prodigy was the being responsible and respectful of like her instrument.
They learn to respect the time they're with the teachers.
I see more structure in him, more on, you know, where he needs to be and what he needs to do.
right now you log in and they're ready to go.
So guys, good morning. How's everybody?
The more I play the violin, the more I realize that there's so much more to life than just a screen. I like playing the violin because it's fun and it relaxes me. I signed up because I wanted to learn something new and play something that I never played before. Well, violin helps me sometimes stay calm. It makes me more patient and gives me more confidence. If I learn new songs, then it will help me learn other songs.
And here, ladies and gentlemen, we've got Ms. Zaha. Woo!
nice. You keep practicing, okay?
So that's what our world looks like now. And you could see some of our incredible teachers and instructors. I mean, they just made it work and they made it happen, and some. So we, because we're such a young program, we're still collecting data and metrics and trying to follow these kiddos. And, but, we started in 2018 with one site and we had like 15 to 20 kids. We were like, yes, all right. And then by that summer, we had expanded to 5 sites and we had over 100 kids. So there is clearly a need. Over the past, so in the 2 years of the program, we've served 160 kids through our violin classes, and many of them still continue to play. So that's pretty cool. After they finish, we can only take them so far, right, in this beginner course. So as a result of, the need to sort of move some of these kids along in the process who weren't quite in middle school yet, we built a partnership with the Tampa Metropolitan Youth Orchestra, which is like the big orchestra here around town. And we created a training orchestra called Prelude Strings. So the kids would graduate from the rec centers to the youth orchestras. And a part of this was also they would receive free private instruction to continue their musical and technical growth. And we're on hiatus right now because of the virtual world, but several of those kids, they're flying. Their wings have really shown their wings. It's wonderful. So that's our violin program. The secondary aspect to our program is what we call art reaches, which we can't do right now, but pre-pandemic, we were doing art reaches, which included instrument petting zoos, where we take an instrument from every section in the orchestra. We take them to community centers, public libraries, senior centers, and we have them try instruments out. And at some of the senior centers, I remember going one time around the holidays and we just like rocked out to Feliz Navidad with like all the percussive instruments, and we also will send out chamber concerts with some of our orchestral musicians, and we'll send them out to human service centers, rehab centers, places like this to really just spread all the music in all the corners of the community. Quite often our CEO and our president, Mark, says, the orchestra is a part of the community. It's not some extra thing that just exists and it's a nice thing that happens to be there. It is a part of the community. It's integrated within the local community. And I think that's really significant because especially now, we need these things. We desire these things. And, putting an instrument in a kid's hand who didn't even know that instrument existed, that's everything. Whether or not they keep going or not, okay. But the fact of the matter is they got to touch, they got to feel, they got to experience, and they got to grow. So that's really what we're about. And I'm hoping we'll be around in the next 20 years with an army of violinists. But yeah. Thank you.
Michelle, you want to take questions or?
Yes, sure.
So people should just feel free to unmute and speak up.
Michelle, can you give us an idea of like how you got to this point? I mean, in your personal like career, like how did you? Just curious.
Yes, I was actually thinking, that was the first part of my talk. I forgot. I was just excited to dive in. So I love how Javier put this last week in their talk with Project STEP. He called it the trifecta. So a performer, an educator, and an arts administrator. I'm going to be totally frank with you. Did I ever think I would be in arts administration as a part of my multifaceted life? No. Do I know more about Excel spreadsheets than I ever thought I would? Yes. I came to this point as a result of wanting to give back to whatever community I was involved in. So I'm a violinist first, I'm an artist first, I'm an educator, but you know, I've discovered that through arts administration, you when this job opened up and I decided to apply for it, I was actually thinking about going into a degree in social work. And then I saw the requirements to get into and I was like, yeah. And you know, I'll stick to music. But I decided to head into when I fell into this job, really, I didn't know what to expect, but I've learned that through arts administration, you're able to work with the framework and the structure of a program like this. You're able, you're able to get things done on that administrative level that can facilitate the growth and the growth and the successes of programs such as these. So, you know, how did I get to this point? Well, I went to school for violin performance and I continue to do that in my life. This job opened up. I wanted a way to give back to my community and I applied and here we are. I mean, that's literally how it happened.
Any more questions?
I won't bite, I promise.
Thank you so much for this talk. I'm extremely interested in how you talked about teaching these other life skills, and it sounds like those are integrated into the curriculum and are really thoughtful, and you have talked about how the program is very research-based. I was wondering if you could talk more about how the research process worked. Did you develop the program based on research that had been done? Did researchers come in and help you develop the program?
Well, that's a great question. A lot of sort of our research numbers are actually, they were done in-house and by a third party through Prodigy and UACDC. So a lot of those numbers, you can go to their website, uacdc.org, and you can see all of those numbers. I don't know them off the top of my head, but they're great. And a part of our training process for our teachers, actually, there is a Prodigy piece to it. So, you know, on the TFO side, we meet with the instructors, we talk purely music, we talk purely best practices, but then they go to training at Prodigy where they learn specifically about like activities, for example, that are purely life skill based, or, and they learn about sort of basic classroom management. Because at the end of the day, that's really what they're doing. I mean, management is number one. And so, you know, those research numbers on our end of things, we're still gathering, we're still following our kids. We're so new, you know, but the research that has been done through Prodigy and UACDC has been done over the span of 20 years. And yeah, it's been done by the Department of Juvenile Justice as well as third private party companies. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Anyone else?
I guess I have a follow-up question. I'm curious about the other people that work in your, the other people you work with. Are any of them solely arts admin, or are they all performers? I mean, the teachers obviously are performers, but the other people on the planning.
Yeah, so on the Prodigy end of things, you know, we have a program manager and a liaison and assistant, all this that deals specifically with the Hillsborough County sites, which we fall under. They're purely administrative. And then Darren Bauer, our community engagement director, he oversees everything. And he's very busy with all the administrative things, all the things. So yeah, I mean, it really varies from person to person, if I'm being totally honest. I can't give you sort of a blanket statement on that one.
Hey, Michelle, are you guys teaching English language learners also? Is that a component of, do you only deliver instruction in English, or?
Both of our well, that's a great question. That actually hasn't been like a focus for us, but we're lucky because both of our instructors are bilingual. So whenever we have had some parents or guardians that do not speak English as their first language. And so we've been lucky that the teachers have that skill already. That's a really great point, and I'm going to note that. Thank you.
Okay, Michelle, thanks so much. And unless there, yeah, that was great. Unless there are other questions, I think we'll move on to the second part of our evening. So, and that's Kokoe and Hannah van der Swaagh. No, Kokoe's Tanaka-Suwan and Hannah van der Swaagh. And so if you guys want to take over, I'll unpin Michelle here.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kokoe Tanaka-Suwan, and I'm excited to be presenting today with Hannah van der Swaagh about our teaching experience at the Bronx Global Learning Institute for Girls, the Shirley Rodriguez Romanesky School, which is an all-girls dual language charter school located in the poorest congressional district in the nation, the South Bronx. So we just wanted to thank Liz for having us today. And we're so excited to just tell our story as educators. I'm going to share my screen. Can everybody see?
Yeah, good.
Okay. All right, so before we dive into our work teaching at Big League, we wanted to share a little bit about our background. So Hannah, do you want to get us started?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah van der Swaagh. I know some of you from our UMass days and elsewhere, but it's nice to meet those of you I haven't met. I am a native New Yorker. I grew up here in Manhattan, and I started playing the violin when I was 6 at School for Strings, which is one of the first Suzuki schools here in the nation. And its founder, Louise Barron, was one of the sort of originals who brought the Suzuki method over here from Japan. So I was very fortunate to attend this school, and I started when I was 6, and then first met Liz when I was 10, I think. Liz was my first chamber coach. And my first day of chamber, I will never let her forget this. In my first day of quartet, she gave me a viola and told me what my first note was and told me that I had to figure the rest of it out. And somehow I did. So I studied violin and viola. I ended up switching to viola for college, and then for grad school. Liz contacted me, and we were able to reconnect after my years at college, and she invited me to audition for UMass. And so it was just a wonderful sort of reconnection there, and playing on the viola that she told me to play back when I was 10. So it worked out very well. And I've met so many of you guys who are here today, and just had a wonderful 2 years at UMass. And then when I graduated, knew that I wanted to move back to New York City. Had gotten a couple of degrees in viola performance, wasn't really sure where I wanted to go with it, and have to thank Liz again. Liz is always looking out for us, and she contacted me and let me know that Kokoe, who's another former student of hers, was looking for a co-teacher, for an assistant at Big League. So I sort of, when I talk about my personal career, my teaching career, I very much stumbled into it. It was something that was opened up for me, and I stepped into it having had very little experience teaching within a classroom setting. And I was actually homeschooled growing up as well, which is kind of an odd little tidbit about me. So when I went into Big League for my first day of work, that was pretty much my first day ever walking into a public school. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but really just sort of found my passion and found my love, this ability to use my music and to teach and to reach a community that I discovered I cared a lot for. So that was sort of where I came from. And so I live here in the city, and I'm now teaching up in East Harlem, but my time at Big League was so formative for me. I was there for 7 years. Coco and I spent probably more time with each other than with anyone else during those 7 years. So we are a team. We've worked together for a very long time, and I'm just really glad that we can share some of our experiences and memories from this time. So.
Great, thank you so much, Hannah. I grew up in Connecticut, and I began playing the violin when I was 4, also followed the Suzuki method. And when I was 12 years old, I went to a summer camp in Canada, and I met Liz there for the first time. And I still remember it so vividly, the very first time that I saw Liz perform. And she was probably the first performer that I saw whom I knew that literally blew me away. So Liz, you've been such an enormous inspiration in my life. So I just wanted to take this moment to thank you for helping shape me as an individual and musician. So from the age of 12, Liz became my private teacher, and we worked very hard together. We used to have like 3-hour lessons every week. And I learned so much under her. And I also studied with her former teacher, Louise Barron, whom Hannah mentioned. And I went to Manhattan School Pre-College Division, School for Strings, was a member of the New York Youth Symphony. And I went on to receive my bachelor's degree in violin performance at the New England Conservatory of Music. I studied with Matsuko Ushioda. And I also received a concentration in music and education. And same thing, after I graduated from NEC, I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, but I was actually contacted by School for Strings, and they said that there was an organization called Bronx Arts Ensemble that they were looking for teaching artists to teach in Bronx Public School. So I thought, you know what, I'll give it a try. And I quickly realized that teaching was my passion, and not only teaching music, but specifically in a public school setting. And I used to refer to myself as a mobile violin teacher because I would jump from various public schools, within the middle of the day. And at one point, I think I had close to 1,000 students, kindergartners through high schoolers. But I just really enjoyed and loved teaching. And during this time, I also went to receive my master's degree at Rutgers University because Liz was there. So she said, come and study with me. So that was a wonderful experience. And I went on to receive my doctorate degree in musical arts, also at Rutgers. And I studied with Todd Phillips. And then a few years ago, I went back and got another master's degree in music education from Teachers College, Columbia University. So yes, I am a firm believer that we can always learn more and really widen our palette as performers, especially through the craft of teaching. So going back, I taught about 5 years with the Bronx Arts Ensemble, and just randomly after a concert, I met Celia Dominich, who was the principal of a brand new charter school that was being housed in one of the public school buildings that I was teaching at. And she asked me on the spot, she said, do you want to create a violin program at this charter school? And I was like, it was 2008, the recession was going on, and there were many arts programs being cut in New York City schools. So I kind of jumped at this opportunity, and that's how we started our journey teaching at Big League. So we're going to move on to a little bit about the background of the Big League. So up here is the mission of the school, and Hannah's going to speak a bit about our founder and visionary, Shirley Rodriguez Reminisky.
So Shirley Rodriguez Reminisky, she was a pioneer in her work to help the Hispanic population in New York City. Since the 70s, she worked in both city and state government, and was the head and chair of so many different organizations throughout her time working in the city. In 1971, she became the district administrator for U.S. Congressman Herman Badillo. She managed and coordinated operations between New York City and Washington, D.C. Under the Koch administration, Shirley became Assistant Deputy Mayor for Affirmative Action, Intergovernmental Relations, and Community Development in the South Bronx, Harlem, and other underdeveloped areas in New York City. In 1986, she became the executive director of Governor Mario Cuomo's Office for Hispanic Affairs. And in 2002, Governor Pataki appointed her the senior vice president at the Empire State Development Corporation's Economic Development Division, and served as Deputy Commissioner and Equal Employment Opportunity Officer for the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development. She founded the 100 Hispanic Women organization in 1996, which provided young Latinas with scholarship and mentoring programs. She founded Big League, as we call it, fondly call it, Bronx Global Learning Institute for Girls, and served on numerous boards, including the chair of Bronx Lebanon Hospital, Bronx Care Health System, the Metropolitan Museum of Art's Multicultural Audience Development Advisory Committee, and the Hostos Committee Community College Foundation Board. Shirley was a force. She was an incredible woman. She was strong. She was influential, and she had all her values were clear and were straight, and she lived by them, and she knew what was important, and she really especially cared for the Hispanic Latina community, and she wanted to provide a beautiful home for the girls in the South Bronx. And so this was such a big part of her vision for opening Big League, to provide our mission, our logo, our phrase was where every girl is a leader. And it was so important that each of these young girls who walked in the doors of our school knew that they had the potential to be a leader and to reach and achieve their highest dreams. So that was very important to Shirley.
So this is Shirley over here, and this is Celia Dominich. So they really teamed up together, and Celia was the founding principal. A little background about her is that she was a teacher first, and she became a principal. Her first principalship was in the South Bronx, and she was just always a very strong supporter for the arts. After her work in the South Bronx, she moved to Southampton, and she started the first Suzuki program in public schools there. And she really saw how influential the Suzuki method was, and it really inspired other schools within that district to follow the Suzuki model. And then she decided it was always her dream to return back to the Bronx. So she helped write the charter for Big League, really with the goal to, defy the culture of poverty, with the belief that arts can really impact and shape the lives of young children. So Big League's mission really focused on the arts, giving students the opportunity to receive classical ballet lessons, Suzuki violin. And she believed that once they had that solid foundation in the arts, that their academics would grow as well. So she really wanted to equalize the playing field. So together, they worked together to build this all-girls charter school. And like Hannah mentioned, the mission of the school was really to build future women leaders, to give them the opportunity to receive a well-rounded, robust education. And we were just so excited to be a part of this amazing vision. So Big League opened in 2008. We mentioned it's an all-girls dual language charter school. First, we started off with just kindergarten and first grade, but I was able to create a music curriculum that really centered on the Suzuki method. Hannah, do you want to talk a little bit about the Suzuki method? We've mentioned it a couple of times.
Yeah. I know that when I was at UMass, we had some Suzuki training that came through. And so maybe those of you who are alum are probably very familiar, but in case some of you are not, the Suzuki method is an incredibly important and influential way of learning an instrument, and in our case, the violin. And Dr. Suzuki based it on this idea of the mother tongue method. And so it's this idea that you're starting your child from a very, very young age before they might even be able to actually read, but they can hear, they can learn by ear. And so it's the idea that just like you would grow up and learn a mother tongue, the language spoken at home, you can learn music. And that happens through exposure, it happens through repetition, it happens through listening and just making it a part of your daily life. So that was my experience, that was Coco's experience. We were very traditional Suzuki kids. And that was such an important part of us then trying to, as Coco mentioned, and she, as she was building the curriculum, and then as I came on, we worked so hard on making those aspects of the Suzuki method a part of our students' lives on a daily basis at our school. And I think Coco will talk a little bit about how we did that and what that looked like.
So we really focused on the idea within the Suzuki method to create global citizens of the world. Like the idea that practicing music and making music is a part of their daily lives. And not to have, the perspective, okay, I'm going to practice my violin every day, but rather like music is just a part of my daily life. It's something that I do, that's a part of me. So we were so lucky to be able to build this program where every single student within the school, we eventually had 450 students, all learned how to play the violin, beginning in kindergarten, on a near daily basis, all the way through 8th grade. So it was something that, we're in a community where classical music is definitely not the norm, but we found that, students and parents and families really embraced this opportunity. And it was something that everybody in the school, all the students just shared. So this is in the spirit of Halloween. They were all dressed up, but also in kindergarten, we started off with the Suzuki approach, starting off on the box violin, then we moved them to the real violin, so they learned how to take care of them. And as you can see, we saw very large classes, so we had on average about 60 students per class. And we were very lucky to have 3 full-time music teachers. So typically one of us would lead the class and the other 2 would go around and help students individually and differentiate instruction. So it was really a place where students could share and celebrate their musical talents. So we applied and won 2 prestigious grants from Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation, about over $100,000 worth of instruments. And this was super exciting just so we had the opportunity to play on high quality instruments. And you can see that they're very excited. But, oops, sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that. All right, and I just wanted to show this video. This was a video that we put together, a thank you video to Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation after receiving the instruments.
Thank you very much, Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation and Tedeschi Trucks Band for your generous donation to our school, the Bronx Global Learning Institute for Girls, the Shirley Rodriguez Reminiscue School. Today we're going to open some of the instruments we received. Isn't that exciting? Your donation has been just an amazing gift to our music program.
Having an opportunity to play on such high quality cellos and basses is a real privilege.
When I play the violin, it makes me feel very happy because we feel very lucky to have these violins. We're so lucky to have violins, and I just love how the violin sounds. I'm happy because we got so many beautiful violins to play on, and we all love them. We were all so excited to see the violins because we knew that we were going to be able to play the big ones someday.
To be thought of 2 years in a row is an incredible honor. So thank you to Mr. Holland's Opus for for remembering us, thinking of us, and really supporting our program and believing in what we do here. We really could not be doing it without you, so thank you very much.
Thank you so much for our donation. It means the world to us because music plays such a very important role in my life because it's like a form of communication, and despite all our differences, it's like we have that one similarity, and it's music because it connects us all.
And the students every single day are just so excited to play on these beautiful instruments. They produce lovely sounds and they look forward to music class every day. So thank you for supporting our program, for believing in us. We're just ever so grateful for everything that you've done.
This donation, it's meant a lot because you also have to think about the future of the kids here in Bigley and how many of the girls here in kindergarten are going to grow up and be exactly where I am now playing this instrument. And they need to know how amazing it is to play on an instrument as amazing as the ones you donated to us.
So we couldn't be any more grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hollins Open Foundation and Tedeschi Trust Band. Woo!
That took several takes, just so you know, for them to say that phrase at the end. But, you know, we've been very lucky. We received over 100 instruments from WQXR. They had an instrument drive and instrumental donations, monetary donations from individuals all the way to large corporations like Chase Bank. Hannah, do you want to share a little bit about String a Dream?
Yeah, we also got about 40 instruments, violins and violas from an organization called String a Dream, which was founded by Eric Wong here in the city. And he works in finance, but he was a violinist growing up, and it was something he really wanted to give back to. And so he had some connections with a couple of instrument factories and was able to work out, he subsidized the entire thing for us. And so we contacted him and he was able to get us 40 instruments, and they were great, good quality. And it was just very generous of him. And we felt so fortunate to have, and knowing that there were programs that, you know, there's always programs that are struggling for instruments, and we just felt very, very blessed and fortunate to have access to these wonderful instruments, and we use them every single day. So it's a gift.
So we also prepared students for high school auditions, and we had acceptances into LaGuardia High School, Talent Unlimited High School, Celia Cruz High School, among others. And I believe in our first graduating class, we had about 40% of our students attend performing arts high schools, which was really amazing. And Hannah, you'll share about the other opportunities we offered students.
We also worked really hard to try to get some of our students, especially ones who were doing that extra practice at home, who were really showing us that they were excited and committed about the instrument. We wanted to get them some supplemental instruction as well. And so we made some connections with a couple of the Saturday programs in the city. We had about 50 students who joined the Saturday Music Project at Turtle Bay Music School. Turtle Bay Music School, unfortunately, just last year closed its doors after 94 years of being open on the East Side. They were a wonderful community music school, but they had an incredible, fully funded Saturday music program where our students could go and take very small group instruction, 2-3 kids at the most, on their main instrument. And then they also had access to theory and orchestra and history and different classes. So we developed a relationship with them very early on, and we sent them a large group of kids every year, which was very special. We also proudly got 2 students into the Juilliard MAP program. The MAP program is an incredible program connected to Juilliard that is also it's specifically for sort of lower income families, and it is scholarship based. And we had 2 students who went there and did very, very well. And one of our students was even able to audition and get into the Juilliard pre-college program from there, which was very exciting for us. So that was very important for us as well, to try to give as many of our students more of that one-on-one experience, because we knew, as Coco mentioned, we were teaching 60 kids at once. And while that was exciting, we wanted to be able to, as much as we could, give those students that opportunity. So that was very important to us, and we were able to keep those relationships going for a long time, which was great.
So we performed all throughout the community. One of our most exciting performances was that we performed the national anthem at Yankee Stadium for 4 consecutive years. And it was really great for students. You know, some of them had never been to a game before, and to be able to walk on the field and play was just super exciting. This was on the Yankees Twitter page, on their Instagram page. So that's that was one of our most exciting performances. And we also performed all throughout the community. Here we performed for Sonia Sotomayor, the Associate Supreme Court Justice, through the Bronx Women's Bar Association. We perform regularly for the Bronx Borough President. He had many events, including the 9/11 memorial that we participated in. We also performed for WQXR, a New York Public radio station, for various galas and events. And also at Carnegie Hall with the School for Strings, their Suzuki Festival, including the Montclair Film Festival. And here's another one from the 9/11 memorial with the Bronx Borough President. So moving forward, one of our greatest memories was being a part of a short documentary film called Joe's Violin. And just to give you a little bit of background, the filmmaker Kahani basically just heard on NPR, she heard, "My name is Joseph and I'm a Holocaust survivor and I donated my violin." WQXR had this instrument drive, and Mr. Holland's Opus Foundation helped WQXR distribute the instruments to various public schools in the tri-state area. And Kahani basically, you know, on her drive to work was wondering, you know, what's Joseph's story? Who's the school that's going to receive it? Who's the young person who's going to play on his instrument? And that's basically how Joe's Violin started. So, you know, she reached out to us, and we, of course, were super excited to be considered to be in this documentary film. And everything from there just kind of grew organically. The student that we chose, her name is Brianna Perez, and at the time she was 12 years old. And we always knew that Brianna was, you know, a mature young lady, and she would really understand the importance of playing on such a special instrument. And when Kahani was filming, she tried to capture Joseph's story and Brianna's story individually, and then their first meeting at Big League, and Brianna played Solveig's song, which was a work that was very dear to Joseph, because his mother used to sing that song and Joseph used to accompany her on his violin. And he lost his mother and brother in the Holocaust. And so it was a really magical moment just to be able to witness these two individuals that were bonded through music, through this special violin, who were generations apart. You know, Joseph was 92 and Brianna was only 12. And, you know, the violin is passed on to one 8th grader at Big League every single year. And Brianna had used Joseph's violin to audition for various performing arts high schools. And they really just became wonderful friends. They wrote letters to each other. Brianna would visit him and play for him, and their friendship really flourished. So it was just something special to be a part of. But here's the trailer for Joe's violin.
WQXR, which is running the instrument drive. Every instrument being donated has a story behind it.
My name is Joseph Feingold. I donated a violin.
You will not believe the story this gentleman just told me.
I always think of my mother. She sang Jewish songs, and very often I accompanied her on the violin. I imagine I was thinking of a young kid who was motivated. I'll be very happy to see something like that.
The student that we have chosen is Brianna.
That violin has so many secrets that nobody knows.
Now we can hide our secrets.
To me, this is like an adventure. I always wanted an adventure.
So you can go to joesviolin.com and watch the film for free on the New Yorker's screening room website. It's only 24 minutes long. We definitely recommend that you check it out. But from there, it was just beyond like our wildest dreams what happened. So the world premiere took place at the Tribeca Film Festival. It was nominated for an Academy Award in 2017. We had amazing moderators, including Jon Stewart, Stephen Colbert. This is Kahani over here, who was the filmmaker, Rafaela, who was one of the producers, Joseph. This is Kathleen, who ran the WQXR instrument drive. We flew to LA and had screenings there. This is Ed Helms and Larry Wilmore. And this is Brianna and Joseph at the Tribeca Film Festival. And we performed at WQXR. And here's another photo from the Tribeca Film Festival. And we just continued to visit him and really, it was just so special to be able to create all these memories together. And Joseph always said, like, I don't know, what I did to deserve this, or, I just donated my instrument, which was definitely something that, we were just all bonded. Forever we'll be bonded through this film. So we were lucky enough to go to the Oscar luncheon and Academy Awards. And Brianna was really just a star. Like, even in the film, the Kahani and Rafaela would say, if we had scripted this movie, we couldn't have, expected anything more than what Brianna said in those moments. So she got to meet all of these celebrities, and it was just a lot of fun for her, meeting Matt Damon, Lin-Manuel, Justin Timberlake, Michelle Williams, and one of the most exciting celebrities that she met was Denzel Washington. And during the press run, she locked eyes with him, and apparently he's not that approachable usually, but they locked eyes, and he saw that she had a violin. And he said, "Oh, do you want to talk?" And she's like, "Yes." And he said, "Well, you're going to have to play for it." So she took out her instrument and played canon in D. And even with his press people saying, "We got to go, we got to go, we got to go," he stood there and he listened to her, for the entire piece. And when she made a little mistake, and she was like, "Oops," like, he's like, "It's okay. The mistakes are what makes it, makes the performance, makes it special." So it was a very exciting time. and a really wonderful experience going to the Academy Awards. So circling back to Big League. So Brianna was in the first graduating class, and last year, well, in the springtime, we had our first graduating class from high school. So it was just really wonderful to see that these students, you know, had gotten their high school diplomas, were heading to college, to great colleges, and pursuing, you know, wonderful careers. So we're just so proud of them, and that they, you know, could really flourish and grow and, you know, achieve all of their dreams. So here's some pictures of them from their high school graduation. And yeah, that's basically our story of our work at Big League. Just wanted to give a little shout out because Brianna is actually here listening again. She's in her first year at Stony Brook, and she's pursuing astrophysics, which is very exciting. And we also have another student, Katie Oliver, she's a senior at LaGuardia High School, who's also here today. So we're just thrilled to be a part of, you know, such a wonderful school. And, you know, Hannah and I, yeah, we continue to keep in touch with our students, and it's just really been amazing. Yeah, so that's basically our story. And thank you so much. And we'll take any questions if you have any.
I just want to thank you guys for you know, helping to facilitate that Joe's violin story. I had Hannah up 3 or 4 years ago at a screening we did up here in Western Mass, and you know, it was you know, such an incredible story. You know, we ended up having people donating their instruments that night at the talk, and Hannah went back on the train that night with like 2 fiddles. I ended up getting 6 or 8 instruments later that week from, you know, from all over Hampshire County, you know, just because, you know, that film speaks to so many people. So thank you to you guys, and thank you to Brianna for, you know, helping to bring that story to so many people.
Thank you so much. And thank you for holding the screening. That's really amazing.
Yeah, that was really fun, Matt. And thank you. I mean, I think what Coco was saying about Joe, I mean, he really did. He always just said, like, I don't know what I did. All I did was I had this, he says it in the video. He's like, I had this violin and I didn't use it anymore. And so I needed to give it to someone else who could use it. And I think it's that sort of simple act, right, that can spur on so much. And so I think that was a sweet message from that movie. And I think that the fact that people in your community then started donating is exactly, you know, what Joe would have wanted to happen, you know, is that you're continuing to pass on those gifts. So it makes me happy to hear.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Madeline, and I worked down in the South Bronx around the corner from these 2 lovely young ladies. And I also want to say that the girls in the program were so enamored and gained so much self-confidence and esteem by the program that children who came into the program subsequently, their families were just committed and found it was a very socially, economically depressed area, is still. These families found money to support the art that their children chose. And so, yes, there were donations, and the spirit of a community supporting a community within is very important, but also the kind of dedication that it also created in the community itself, and the belief that their children could do better because look what these other children have done. And they were able to scrape together whatever funds they had. And I know that they started to buy their own instruments as well. And I was so inspired by that. And I attribute it to the dedication and commitment of these teachers.
Thank you, Madeline.
Thank you so much, Madeline. Yeah, Madeline still teaches in the South Bronx. So big shout out to her. But it it was really amazing, where we found inexpensive instruments that students could purchase so that they could practice on them at home. And it was just, like Madeline said, it was just amazing to see that, families would, put together $40 or $45 to try to purchase this instrument, so that they could, continue practicing at home. So that was really amazing.
Yeah, and that piece from Michelle's talk and from her video about the mom who got the violin for her daughter for Christmas, like that really resonated with me, because we definitely had families who did that, who like exactly scraped together that money, and then they would come in, after the Christmas break, and the kids were so excited. Like that's really all they had wanted for Christmas was a violin. So it was, yeah, it's a special, special thing.
Coco, could you talk a little bit more when you said that you realized when you walked into your first experience in the Bronx, that this was your passion? I mean, what was it about the work that struck you at that point?
I mean, I had experience teaching privately, but, not within a school setting. And, it's, especially it's like a teaching artist, like they have Bronx Arts would raise money, and then they would put money into various schools to fund these art or these music programs, or whatever art form the school wanted. So, I mean, it's definitely not easy. Like I used to walk around like with a trolley with all of these violins on top, but I don't know. I just felt like it was kind of my calling. I felt like it helped me, like as a performer, being able to teach really helped me in my playing, and just being able to have positive relationships with students and their families. And really, it's not necessarily about, becoming a professional musician, but just kind of giving students the chance to make music where they can use it as an outlet or a form of expression, I think is extremely powerful. And, I think it's so important for young people to be given that opportunity to, that exposure to the arts. So it just, I just knew right away that was my calling. And it was just amazing to be given all the tools to, create a program that could be successful, and, and to keep in touch with, and with all of these students.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I was really struck that you said you were teaching classes of 60 kids at once, and that it sounds like everyone in the school is able to participate. And yet it sounds like when you talk about these individual students, it sounds like you have an understanding of who they are as individuals. I'm wondering, how do you have techniques to get to know students even when you're teaching 60 kids at a time?
Well, we're really lucky just because, I mean, we chose to see the larger group so that we could see them almost every day. So, we were the only class, where we see every single student, almost every day, every single year. So we were really able to create these positive relationships with students and their families. And, we had a system in place, like, the students knew which color, square on the rug to go to, how, to get their instruments safely from the shelf. So we really tried to make those routines like smooth, from when they were in kindergarten. So they just knew exactly what's expected in music class. Even the way that, we learned to play a new instrument, we always followed that same routine of, they would hear this piece first, we would sing it together, we would focus on the left hand, then, pluck it, then incorporate the bow. So we actually, even with students with disabilities or ENL students, we didn't have a lot of issues just because there's that constant repetition and way for them to absorb and internalize the material. So we also had like hand signals. So instead of 60 kids like saying, I have a question, we had like, okay, 3 is out of tune. So they would just go like this, or before I need rosin, we just give them a nod so that, you know, they could get their instrument tuned. So we ran a pretty tight shift.
We were also able to work so cohesively as a unit. We were really, really lucky. Honestly, we said it year after year after year. I mean, Coco and I knew each other very briefly back in high school. When Coco was in high school and I was a little bit younger, when she was Liz's student, we sort of crossed paths in School for Strings a couple of times. But we just sort of clicked and it worked kind of from day one. And then we were very lucky as we started to take in a third teacher. That third teacher was rotated a couple of times during our time together, but every time it just sort of worked. And so we were able to just function so cohesively as a unit that I think that also really helped us, because it also allowed us to, like, you know, as Coco mentioned earlier, like one of us, we would sort of rotate who was teaching the classes, and then the other two could kind of work more directly one-on-one with these students. And sort of going back to something that Michelle was talking about earlier, because, you know, even sort of behaviorally or, you know, non-music issues that would arise, we could kind of we kept it very contained in our classroom. So like we would step outside in the hallway and chat with a student, so that was another way that we sort of really got to know them. And we were able to kind of, yeah, like Coco said, we ran a tight ship, but we were also kind of able to keep it kind of in-house. And so we developed those relationships with those students, which I think was instrumental for that. Really special.
What is a lesson that you both treasured most from Big League?
Brianna,
are you going to show your face so everyone can see you?
I can't.
Not as a 12-year-old.
What
did you say, Brianna?
So my question was, what is a lesson that you both treasured most from teaching at Big League?
I think for me, the biggest lesson is that this is what I am supposed to be doing in my life. I mean, I think, like Coco was talking about her calling, I mean, I think I really personally stepped into a very huge unknown and did not know what I was doing and did not know if this is what I wanted to do. And I remember the moment, it wasn't an exact moment, but I remember like this feeling 4 or 5 years in, that I just would walk into school every day and I'd be like, oh no, this is where I'm supposed to be. Like, this is my safe space. This is my home. These are my people. And this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think, I'm so grateful to Big League for giving me that, you know, my time there, my relationship with Coco, and especially my relationships with my students, like just showing me that this is where I feel fulfilled the most, you know, is in teaching, is in working in these communities. And so I thank my time at Big League for that.
Absolutely, I agree. I think, you know, just being able to, you know, reach so many students and not only make those connections, but to keep them, you know, we're still in touch with so many students and their families. And I think that those kind of, you know, relationships are really powerful, you know, for young people, and just so that they know that, you know, there's a figure in their life that they can count on, you know, for anything that they need. So, yeah.
And I will say, there is nothing for all of us who are music teachers or musicians, there is nothing like being a music teacher, in that you have this ability year to year to year to develop these relationships. Like I cherish that so much. And I have so many of my, you know, coworkers and good friends who are classroom teachers, and I don't know how they do it. And my hat is off to them. But what I love about my job is that I get to see my kids year after year after year, and I get to develop and foster these relationships. And that's true for private teaching as well. Absolutely, right? We all know that. And those of us who study with Liz, like, we're here, right? Because of what Liz gave us. And so it's those relationships that we get to form with our students is just so incredibly powerful. And that's the most special thing to me.
Hi, I have a question.
Katie!
Hi.
So throughout this whole experience, like, did anything take you by surprise? Like, did you ever think that, you know, doing what you did would get you as much recognition?
Katie, I don't think we ever could have predicted, you know, it's, Katie is a senior right now at LaGuardia High School on viola, superstar too. But Katie, as you know, we just, you know, I think Hannah and I just went into work every day, like just loving our job and looking forward to seeing our students. And I think, you know, it says a lot to be able to love, you know, what you do in your profession. So I think that, you know, really translated in the classroom. And yeah, we're just so proud of you and, you know, all of our students and, you know, everything that you've achieved. And we're looking forward to seeing what you achieve, you know, from here on out as well. Where are you applying to college, Katie?
So I have like a top 5. I'm just like looking at, it's like all on my wall. I have like Boston University and UConn and Emerson and Syracuse and Penn State, you know, those type of colleges.
That's wonderful. What are you trying, what's your focus, or what do you hope to major in?
So I'm hoping to major in tech theater, and then I want to do like a minor in like pre-med to hopefully become a doctor one day.
That's amazing, Katie. We're so proud of you.
Thanks. I wouldn't be where I am without you guys. That's definitely for sure.
Thanks, sweetie. Katie, there was a suggestion that you should apply to UMass as well, which is the school that we're currently meeting through. So just so you can add it to your
Yep.
Oh.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you guys so much. That's just so terrific. We really, we're gonna have the YouTube live archived on the playlist, so other people can catch it who didn't.